Got it. You're on.
It's
You're
still
on now.
It's still like this red thing is going across the page.
Shall we mute
There.
ourselves?
Yeah, that would be a good idea. I'm waiting for the red line to complete itself, so I know it's actually really doing it, and stop somewhere along.
And also,
there.
Rabbi, are you recording this?
Yes.
Okay.
So somebody's making a lot of noise.
Not me.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you for muting. Okay, here we go. It's being live streamed. Great. Okay. Ooh, I see myself.
We're going to start.
Well, we have 30 people.
You
So,
should spotlight the one that says TV stream when you're ready to start.
okay.
Mute everybody.
Oh my God, look what's happening. I'm psychedelic. Okay, Jory. Okay, great.
Okay. This should,
Jory, look what's happening.
yeah, I know. Hold on.
We're
Here we go.
descending into dark places.
I didn't realize you had spotlighted me already.
You said spotlight me when you're ready. I was ready.
Okay. Okay.
All right, maybe I'll record this also, just in case. Okay, I've got a sign that says this meeting is being recorded, and it's a big black thing in the middle of the screen, and it won't go away. There, please. All right.
Getting the same one, yeah.
You got it? Everybody has that?
Yeah, that
went
was
away
me.
now.
We should
went
be
away.
good.
Okay, good.
I accidentally muted Elliot, so Elliot's gonna have to mute himself.
Okay, so we've got our act together here. All right, Shabbat Shalom, everybody. So tonight, it's not only Shabbat, but it's also, actually, it's not, Sukkot as in the first night of Sukkot, it's the intermediate days. So what we say is, we don't say Chag Sameach, we say Moadim L'Simcha, because Moadim are the days in between, and L'Simcha is for joy. And of course, Sukkot is supposed to be a very joyous holiday. But we're going to say Chag Sameach anyway, because we're celebrating Sukkot tonight. So we're going to begin with Elliot, who's got some Ladino music for us, and a Ladino song that talks about the lulav and the etrog. And it is called Lama Sukazu.
למה סוכה זו הבטון שלי? למה סוכה זו הבטון שלי? לשב בסוכה יקירי, לשב בסוכה חביבי, לשב בסוכה ילד חן שלי, לשב בסוכה ילד חן שלי. למה לשב בטוב שלי? למה לשב בטוב שלי? אבותינו יקירי, אבותינו חביבי, אבותינו גם המה, אבותינו גם המה, ישבו בסוכה.
Just got a note from Christine that this is streaming live on my channel, my personal channel. Okay, I give up. I'm sorry. It's a good thing I'm recording this. So I guess we're not live streaming on the Temple Bethel channel. I don't know what has happened. I changed the password. I can't explain it. Okay. Anyhow, so I see it on YouTube, but it's my own personal channel. Oh well. We are going to light the candles for Shabbat and for the holiday, and Lori Magnus is going to do that for us.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat ve'yom tov. Blessed are you, Adonai our God, sovereign of the universe, who took it away too soon, you guys.
Jory, can you put the slide back?
Who hallows us with mitzvah, commanding us to kindle the lights of Shabbat and this festival.
Thank you, Lori. And Elliot is going to lead us in the festival Kiddush.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bacha banu mikol am, ורוממנו מכל לשון, וקידשנו במצוותיו. ותיתן לנו אדוני אלוהינו באהבה, שבתות למנוחה, ומועדים לשמחה, חגים וזמנים לששון. את יום השבת הזה, ואת יום חג הסוכות הזה, זמן שמחתנו, מקרא קודש, זכר ליציאת מצרים. כי באנו בחרת, ואתנו קידשת מכל העמים, בשבת ומועדי קודשך, באהבה וברצון, בשמחה וברששון, הנחלתנו. ברוך אתה אדוני מקדש השבת וישראל והזמנים.
Amen. So I don't know if you noticed today, but it did rain a little tiny bit. It was a little bit of a spit of rain, but it was sort of perfect because starting at the end of Sukkot, we start actually praying for rain. So this is by Rabbi David Seidenberg. And you know, in the olden days, they used to have a whole water ceremony that went with Sukkot. And when we wave the lulav, it kind of sounds like rain, right? So he says Sukkot is about water. Every day in ancient Israel, the priest poured water on the altar, and prayers asking for the blessings of water were sung. The four species of the lulav are all about water too. The lulav itself, the date palm, was the most water-loving plant of the desert. The myrtle needs the most water of the mountain plants. The etrog fruit among agricultural trees requires the most rain to grow. And of course, the willow of the streams are synonymous with abundant water, often growing with their roots right in the streams. And of course, then you wonder, why are these the species that are grown in Israel, which has weather like ours? And of course, what do we do here? We grow almonds, which require also a lot of water, and it makes no sense, but whatever. Anyway, to continue, David Seidenberg, each of these species represents one of the primary habitats of the land of Israel: the desert, the mountain, the lowland, and the river or riparian corridors. Each of these types of habitat is distinguished by how much rainfall and how much groundwater are found there. Together, the four species make a kind of bioregional map of the land of Israel, and they each hold in greatest abundance the rains that fell where they grow in the year that has passed. Bringing these four species together, we wave them in all directions around us, up and down, praying that the coming year will again bring enough water for each of these species to grow and thrive, and with them, all the species of each habitat. We're praying fundamentally for the climate, for the stability and sufficiency of the rain and sunshine, on which depend every being living upon the land, whether plant or animal. How can we make our prayers heard? We can make them heard by hearing them ourselves. When we pray for abundance and sustenance while living in ways that destroy our climate, it is like praying with a dried out lulav, or worse, praying for health while eating not just junk food, but poisons and toxins. We need to pray for abundance and sustenance, but we also need to pray for the wisdom and ability to act consistently with our prayers, to change how we live so that we might live sustainably on the earth. As the Torah enjoins us, uvacharta b'chaim, choose life. And actually, interestingly enough, this year is also the Shemitah year. It's a year when you let the land lie fallow, debts are remitted, things go back to a sort of earlier time before people had to either sell or give their land to pay debts. And so that's kind of an interesting lesson for us, because we really need to think about how we have been really drawing too much out of our land. And we need to really think about sustainability. And the Shemitah year and the every 7 years where we give a rest to the land are good examples of how we might do that. But we now continue with, this is what we need to build a sukkah.
This is what we need to build a sukkah. Wood and branches, hammer and nails. This is what we need to build a sukkah for this holiday. First we build the frame and wood and cover it with branches. Lots of fun to do. But don't forget that we must see the sun peeking at us through the roof. This is what we need to build the sukkah. Wood and branches, hammer and nails. This is what we need to build a sukkah for this holiday. Now it's time to hang the apples, carrots and bananas, pears and popcorn too. But don't forget that we must see the sun peeking out through, the sky peeking through us through the roof. This is what we need to build a sukkah. Wood and branches, hammer and nails. This is what we need to build a sukkah for this holiday. After it is finished, we can eat inside the sukkah. We can sleep there too. But don't forget that we must see the stars peeking at us through the roof. This is what we need to build a sukkah. Wood and branches, hammer and nails. This is what we need to build a sukkah for this holiday. For this holiday.
Lovely. Debbie Friedman's wonderful song about building a sukkah. The story is told of the Hasidic master, Rabbi Chaim of Zantz, who was busy preparing for the Sukkot holiday with his family. On the eve of Sukkot, he told his children that he urgently needed several thousand rubles. Responding to their father's timely request, they went from door to door, borrowing the money from wealthy members of the community. Upon their return, Reb Chaim distributed all of the money to the needy. As a rabbi and his family entered their sukkah that evening, he said, "People are accustomed to decorate their sukkah with all manner of pretty ornaments. The beauty of my sukkah is different. Tzedakah is what makes my sukkah beautiful." We continue with the Chatzi Kaddish.
יתקדע ויתקדע שמי רבה, ועמד יברך חירותי וימליך מלכותי, בחייכון וביומכון, ובחיי לכל בית ישראל. בעגלה בעגלה, ובזמן קריב, ואמרו אמן. יהי שמי רבו מברך, לעולם ולעלמי עלמיה, יתברך, יתברך וישתבח, ויתפרע ויתרומם ויתנשא, ויתהדר ויתעלה, ויתהלל שמי דקודשא בריחו, לאלה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה, תושבחתה ונחמתה, דמירן בעלמה, ואמרו Amen.
And the Baruch Hu is the call to worship.
Baruch Hu et Adonai, HaMevorach, Baruch Adonai, HaMevorach.
And this is a piece by Ruth Bryn. It's called Sukkot. On our tables are the harvests of the earth, pears and grapes, corn and peppers. We thank you first for the food which sustains us in all seasons of the year. In winter, we stand at our windows looking out upon dreary trees. Long ago, the harvest was taken. Only dry stalks remain and frozen ground beneath the snow. We thank you for shelter, for the body that shelters the spirit, for the house and the city and the nation which shelter us, for the talents of those who design and build, for the ability of those who make shelters of justice and structures of peace. In the spring after rain, our eyes are filled with loveliness, greening lawn, opening bud, darting bird. Of course, this is on the East Coast, not here. To thank you for fruitful earth and talented people is not enough. There's life and growth, perception, consciousness, logic, and truth. And because of these, there is your gift of freedom. We thank you that we are not like bud or bird, but being human are free to choose, even between good and evil, life and death. In July, in the warm, sweet days of summer, we thank you for beauty. The oaks cast their deep shadows on the lawn, and we thank you for love. We continue with Ahavat Olam, eternal love from God.
Ahavat Olam Bet Yisrael Amecha Torah Mitzvot Chokim u'mishpatim Otanu lemodeta Al ken Adonai Eloheinu B'shochbeinu u'b'komenu Nasiach b'chokecha ונשמח בדברי תורתך ובמצוותיך לעולם ועד כי הם חיינו ואורך ימינו وبيوم نهجه يومم ولیلا.
The Shema brings us all together. And Carolee is recovering from her hip surgery, so Elliot will lead us in the Ve'ahavta.
ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבבך ושינתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך וקשרתם להות על ידיך והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך.
Uchtav tam.
I got lost.
Uchtav tam. Al mezuzot.
זאת ביתך ובישעריך, למען תזכרו ותשאתם את כל מצוותיי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוציא אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים, אני אדוני אלוהים.
Thanks, Elliot. So this is from Rabbi Gideon Sylvester. Home is any four walls that enclose the right person, said the American writer Helen Rowland. Home is not about building palaces. It's about living safely with the people we care about. But sometimes even four walls is a luxury, as we discover on Sukkot. Constructing and living in the simplest possible structure is one of the themes and challenges of Sukkot. The Talmud discusses the minimum number of walls and the type of roof necessary to create a sukkah, and further analyzes whether one wall must reach another and whether they have to reach as high as the roof. The rabbi's concern is clear. Too few walls and we won't have a stable structure, but too solid a building and we will have turned the sukkah into a permanent building. Our sukkah must be a temporary structure. Nachmanides, who's a mystical writer, explains that this is important to help us to know and remember our ancestors who were in the wilderness and did not live in homes and found no habitation for 40 years, but God was with them and they lacked nothing. On Sukkot, we remember what it is like to be in a wilderness. It's an awesome challenge, underlined by Rabbi Hirsch, who explains that the wilderness is a place where there's an absence of all the supports usually provided by nature and human ingenuity for a human being's survival. The Mi Chamocha is the song we sang when we left Egypt on our way for those 40 years of wandering in the wilderness, living in Sukkot. Mi Chamocha.
Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi chamocha nedar b'kodesh, nora tehilot osef ele, malachotecha רובנך, בוקע ים לפני משה, זה לי אנו ואמרו, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד.
And this is from Rabbi Toba Spitzer, Paradoxes. The sukkah is open to the elements. There needs to be enough space in the roof for rain to get through, and it cannot shelter us from the cold. Yet it is in the sukkah that we are invited to feel God's presence in our lives. The sukkah reminds us that security ultimately doesn't come from walls, from possessions, from barriers, but from opening our hearts and our homes to others, from remaining open ourselves. We let a little rain in and know that we'll be okay. The sukkah must be a non-permanent structure, yet it serves to remind us of how long we've been around as a people, all the way back to our ancestors' liberation from slavery in Egypt. It reminds us that all of life is ephemeral, and the only thing that lasts is our connection to other people through time and through space, and to the power of life and liberation, which gives us life as individuals and as a community. The sukkah is a site of paradoxes. In its simplicity, we celebrate the abundance of the year's harvest. In its vulnerability, we feel ourselves protected by the Sukkat Shalom, the shelter of peace, of godly love. In its temporariness, we connect ourselves to the eternal. And Hashkivenu is a prayer of lying down in peace and waking up in peace.
Ashkivenu Adonai, Eloheinu leshalom, v'hamidenu, Malkeinu lechaim, uvros aleinu sukat shalomecha, v'tachnenu b'tzatzei tova milfanecha, v'hoshienu למען שמך, והגן בעדנו, והסר מעלינו אויב, דבר וחרב ורע ויגון, והסר שטן מלפנינו ומאחרינו, ובצל כנפיך תסתירנו, כי אל שומרנו ומצילנו אתה, כי אל מלך חנון ורחום אתה, ושמור צאתנו ואנו לחיים ושלום מעתה ועד עולם, ופרוס עלינו סוכת שלומך, ברוך אתה אדוני הפורס סוכת שלום עלינו, ועל כל עמו ישראל ועל ירושלים, אמן, amen.
We continue with the tefillah.
Adonai sefatai tiftach, ufi yagi tehilatecha. Eternal God, open my lips, that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu, v'Elokei avotenu v'imotenu, Elokei Avraham, Elokei Yitzchak, v'Elokei Yaakov, Elokei Sarah, Elokei Rivka, Elokei Rachel, v'Elokei Leah, האל הגדול הגיבור והנורא, אל עליון, גומר חסדים טובים, וקונה הכל, וזוכר חסדי אבות ואימהות, ומביא גאולה לבני בניהם, למען שמו באהבה, מלך עוזר ומושיע ומגן. Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Avraham ve'Ezrat Sarah. Atah gibor le'olam Adonai, mechaye hakol chata, Rav lehoshia. Mechalkel chayim bechesed, mechaye hakol berachamim rabim. סומך נופלים ורופא חולים, ומתיר אסורים, ומקיים אמונתו לשני עפר. מי כמוך באל גבורות, ומי דומה לך, מלך ממית ומחיה, ומצמיח ישוע, ונאמן אתה להחיות הכל. ברוך אתה אדוני מחיה הכל. אתה קדוש ושמך קדוש, וקדושים בכל יום להללוך סלע. ברוך אתה אדוני האל הקדוש.
And let's take a moment of silent prayer.
עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו. עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו. עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו. יעשה שלום, יעשה שלום, שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל. יעשה שלום, יעשה שלום, שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל. יעשה שלום, יעשה שלום, שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל. יעשה שלום, יעשה שלום, שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל.
You're muted.
Okay, of course, got to be muted one time during the whole service. Thank you. At this joyous time, we take a moment now to think of those in need of healing, whether of body, mind, or spirit. We think of congregants and friends and family of congregants, Jonathan Davidson, Ben Henderson, Kara Gilman, Rabbi Steve Robbins, Gloria Mangus, Steve Lux, Leslie Ferris, Pamela Mangus, Johnny Sikat, Sid Love, Larry Miller, Jeff Simons, Esperanza Moriel, Rabbi Annette Koch, Harav Chana Rachel Bat Rosa Wolf, Stephen Strauss, Kelly Work, Kenny Hayes, Carol Chase Balash, Marilyn Whitmer, Abby Sandaha, Deanna Cohen, Regina Richards, Keith Melville, Donna Melville, Rosalind Jones, Carolee Jaspin. Please feel free to add names in the chat. Carol Nagengas, I hope I pronounced that correctly, Ruth and Sandra Landis, Diana Anderson, Jane Gailey, Willie Davis, Kim Coe, Raul Camacho, Lynn Yarmoff, Jess Landis, Ron Jones, Jeanette Beeler, Sheila Winston, Joan Bertoli, Jackson Griffin, Art Ochoa, Peter Thorne, Robert Engel, Ruby Swate, Shirley Clinton,
Vlad Glasman.
Please join us quietly in the Misha Barach, the prayer for healing.
Source of strength, who bless the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shelema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say,
So there are two commandments that we are supposed to follow for Sukkot. One is to dwell in the Sukkah, during the 7 days of Sukkot, to eat there, to sleep there. And the other one is to wave the lulav. So I shall do that. Jory, can we see me waving the lulav? Or not? There we go. I'm waiting for the blessing. Oh, well.
Okay.
Wait, hang on.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu al nitilat lalulav. Amen.
Shechachayanu.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shehechianu v'kimanu v'higianu lazman hazeh. Amen.
First, we say the Shechachayanu prayer anytime we have a special holiday, a special occasion. So the first thing I mentioned was dwelling in the sukkah. And that's supposed to get us, on the one hand, close to nature, remembering that we are here as guests on this earth, and remembering that, as I mentioned in one of the commentaries, that being connected to God is really what keeps us strong and sustained, not the structures around us. And the other one is to realize how vulnerable we can be. And we know that from all sorts of storms and fires that, it's so easy to lose your home. And so we experience that for a week, the vulnerability of being in a structure like this that is not going to keep us from cold or wind or whatever. And so that also makes us think about some people who don't have the shelter that we are lucky enough to have, whether it's a home or a safe haven, a country that we can feel comfortable in. So I saw this picture today. These are the Haitians who've been trying to come into this country. And I know we can't take in everybody, but if you look at the picture, you see all sorts of tents that are sort of the Sukkot of these people right now, trying to get some shelter here, of course, escaping from some, terrible conditions in their own country. And it's very sad. And it's something that we, need to really think about while we're celebrating Sukkot, which is also a harvest festival. So it's a festival of plenty. We've collected the harvest. It's the last harvest of the season. We're going to be praying for rain in another day or two. And that's when we want our new crops to start growing. But right now, our crops are grown. We've collected them. We have food, but there are a lot of people who don't have it. The other thing I mentioned, of course, is waving the lulav. And you saw me waving it in I did 7 directions, and I'll explain. So the lulav is done in the 4 directions, east, south, west, north, and then up to heaven and down to earth, which could mean a whole series of things. One of them is that it means God is everywhere. And as I mentioned earlier, when you wave it, you can hear it. It sounds a little bit like rain. So it's also kind of a prayer for rain. The lulav is made up of the 4 species that are, native to Israel. And so, of course, we have to drosh on it. In other words, interpret what all these different pieces mean. So there is the palm frond, and then is myrtle, 3 branches of myrtle, 2 branches of willow, and also the etrog. And the rabbis say that the palm frond is sort of represents our back, our spine that keeps us erect, hopefully, if we're not too bent over from life and gravity. The willow represents lips, could represent something else, but that's what they say. And the myrtle, which looks kind of like eyes, represents the eyes. And of course, the etrog, which is in English, it's a citron, represents the heart. Then there's another interpretation. So the etrog smells really beautiful, wonderful, and it has a pleasant taste. And that represents the person who studies Torah and also does deeds of loving kindness. Now, the lulav comes from a tree where there are dates, and the dates, of course, taste really good, but don't smell. So that's the person that studies Torah, takes Torah in, but doesn't do deeds of loving kindness. The myrtle smells really good, but has no taste. And that one represents the person who does acts of loving kindness, but does not study Torah. And then we have the poor willow. The willow doesn't smell and doesn't taste. And so, of course, the willow ends up being neither one. Now, don't despair, because the whole point of this is that each person in our community is essential to our community. The person who does both study Torah and does acts of loving kindness, the person who does acts of loving kindness but no Torah, the person who does Torah, the person who does neither. That's our community. Everybody's essential to the community, which is why we put this all together and wave it. And then there's another piece, which is from the American Jewish World Service. And this is how they look at the different directions that the lulav is waved in. So the South represents kindness. We open our hearts and hands to share our resources with those in need. And we stand up for equality and justice. North represents discipline. It takes hard work to make change. And we commit to doing this labor with intention. East represents harmony. We join together with friends, neighbors, and our fellow human beings, creating relationships that bridge differences and foster peace. Up towards heaven represents perseverance. We know that building a better world takes time, and we will not relent until the arc of history bends towards justice. Down towards the earth represents acceptance. We accept that it is not up to us to complete the work, but it is incumbent upon us each to do our own part. And west, we know that it represents connection. We know that we are stronger together than as individuals, and we build our power through solidarity. And the last place that I waved the lulav was towards myself, which, represents God being within us and the power that we each have individually to do what needs to be done in the world. So that's a little bit about Sukkot. And I think what we'll do is have a little quick conversation now. I wanted to let you know that we're inching towards going back in person. The positivity rate is going down here in Riverside. So it's at 6-point-something%. It's down by half from a few weeks ago. So that's a really good sign. And Dr. Martin Schlusselberg has told us that the trend is really definitely towards, down. And that's what's happened with the Delta in various places, is that there's been a peak and now we're down, going down. The positivity rate is going down. Unfortunately, the transmissibility rate is actually very high, and it's red. But I think our community is actually in pretty good shape, because I think most people in our community, the Temple Bethel community, are vaccinated. And so we're, basically as safe as we can be if we come together wearing masks and being as careful as possible. We're grateful for that. And gratitude is also part of Sukkot. And so there is a praise called Hoshana, which Elliot is going to sing for us.
Hoshana, 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 Hoshana.
Of course, Hoshana also means, rescue us, but it also is praise. And so we are hoping God will rescue us from various things that we're going through right now. And we thank God for what God has done for us already. So I want to open it up to see if anybody has any announcements. I have one big announcement. Christine Gailey is our newest member of the temple. So we're very happy to welcome her to our temple. And actually, in a few weeks, she's going to talk about her journey to Judaism on the 8th. So we're really looking forward to hearing Christine's journey, and we welcome her. Anybody else have any announcements that they would like to share? No. Welcome, Christine, Jan Archibek says. Okay. So Monday is going to be Simchat Torah. And as you may know, Simchat Torah is when we celebrate the Torah. We are going to do it outside and on Zoom. So if you can't make it, that's okay. You can still watch it on Zoom. We are going to unfurl the Torah on a table rather than having people hold it. We're not going to do the hakafot that we usually do, taking the Torahs around many times, but we have some little baby Torahs that hopefully the kids will be willing to dance with to sort of represent the hakafot. So we're really, happy to have a service in person outside. And then we're hoping that maybe within a couple of weeks, we'll be able to start having services again in the sanctuary. Everybody, of course, has to be vaccinated and masked, but in person once again. Yizkor is when? Yizkor is Monday at 12. And by the way, I hope that was in the weekly announcements. Yizkor is going to be also in person and on Zoom, because we usually have a very small number of people coming to Yizkor. So might as well just the 6 or 8 of us, if that's how many are coming, we can be in person. And I'll also have my computer and it'll be on Zoom if you can't come. So, little by little, as Rabbi Ed Feinstein said, we're never going to go back to normal in the sense of what it used to look like. It may be that for a few years, we have these peaks and valleys. We're going to have a really bad infection rate, and then it's going to go down. And let's just hope that we can get the whole world vaccinated and defeat this virus. But as long as the whole world is not vaccinated, the mutations can keep developing and get stronger. So we're doing what we can to keep everybody safe. I want to thank Elliot Levine for your beautiful music and your beautiful voice. And I want to thank Jory, who's been doing the behind the scenes technology here, trying to give us both the image of the person speaking or singing, as well as the prayers on the other side. Okay. Oh, this is interesting. Ken says, aspirin was derived from the willow. Wow. That's interesting. And it obviously helps pain and inflammation. Yeah, I mean, medication comes originally from, I guess, plants and natural things, and then we've made them synthetically. But willow bark, it's willow bark that aspirin comes from. I'm not sure. Christine put willow bark in there. So yeah, lots of things to think about with the lulav and the etrog. And by the way, we do have an etrog bush in our parking lot. Unfortunately, I think because of the drought, I haven't seen any etrog on there. I've seen some flowers, so maybe it'll come later. Yes, these days aspirin is a petrochemical product. Thank you from Dr. Golliff. Yeah, so, today it did rain a little bit, but it was like, it really literally was like spitting a little bit of rain, and that was about it, even though the forecast was for rain and it was thundering and everything. And then it was like, okay, I think it was 1 millimeter of rain. Hopefully at some point, someone will come up with a brilliant idea of piping in the rain, all the water that the East Coast has that they're flooding, being flooded by, and bring it out here where we really need it, right? That was Bill Maher's idea. Okay, let's continue with the Aleinu.
עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצא בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי ארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל המונם. ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא, שהוא נוטה שמיים ויוסד הארץ, ומושב יקרו בשמיים ממעל, ושכינתו זו בגובה מרומים. הוא אלוהינו אין עוד, אמת מלכנו אפס זולתו, ככתוב בתורתו, וידעת היום והשבות אל לבבך, כי אדוני הוא האלוהים בשמיים ממעל, ועל הארץ מתחת אין עוד. ונאמר, והיה אדוני למלך כל הארץ, ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו אחד.
Take a moment now to think of those who are no longer with us. May their memory be for a blessing. We offer our condolences to Jamie Weiss, whose brother Lauren Weiss passed away a few days ago, and we offer our condolences to Avi Altman on the passing of his husband, Harel. We're observing Shloshim for Bob Pearlstein and for Alan Pasternak. Is anyone else observing Shiva Shloshim or the first year of mourning and would like to mention a name? First year Albert Archibald Jr., first year Brenda Oppenheim. Tomorrow would have been her 72nd birthday. Elaine Burke. First year Janine Lester, Julia Poveda, Dina Eliason, Topher Clausen, Shloshim Ayola Fogel. Solomon Fishman, Pauline Geerling's first year, Stan Walkman, Sanford Victor first year, Rabbi Bennett Herman, first year Pat Constantini, and we're observing yard sites this Shabbat for Minnie B. Tour, Frank Dahlia Jr., Jacob Halprin, Marion Kober, Arnold Farber, June Rose Goldware, Wolfie Ice, Pearl Pasternak, Sanford Dick, Steve Grobart, Robert Exler, Rose Weinberg, Sarah Chernak, Meyer Levitt, Leonard Gardner, Rose Cohen, Grace Brill, Celia Oringer, Molly Gordon, Joan Bradley Clapham. Is anyone else observing a yard site? Bruce Gailey. Please join me in the mourner's Kaddish as we also think of those who perished in the Holocaust and have no one to say the mourner's Kaddish for them. And please feel free to unmute if you would like. Yikadal v'yikadash shemei rabbah. Ve'alma divrach yechutei v'yamlich malchutei. V'chayachon u'v'yomechon v'chayedecho Beit Yisrael. V'adala u'v'zman karev imru amen. Yehei shemei rabbah mebarach v'olam lalmei almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh. Yitadar v'yithalal v'yit kudusha v'richu. La'ela min kol bilchata v'shirata. Tushbachata v'nechemata v'amiran be'alma. Amen. Yehei Shlama Rabba Min Shemaya. V'chaim Aleinu Ve'al Kol Yisrael. Imru. Amen. Oseh Shalom Bimromav. Ya'aseh Shalom. Aleinu Ve'al Kol Yisrael. Imru. Amen.
Say shalom.
May the source of peace send peace to all who mourn and comfort to all who are bereaved, as together we say,
Amen.
Amen. Our closing song is another Ladino song about Sukkot.
Sukkah ve'lulav ve'am segula yahad yaronu yisu tehila Sukkah ve'lulav ve'am segula Yahad Yaronu Yisu Tehila El Mi Mizrayim Ke'alanu Ibero Kocho Ishme'anu Sukkah ve'lulav ve'am segula yahad yabanu yisu tehila.
And we conclude our service with a nice motzi so we can all go off and eat.
Hamotzi lechem min haaretz, we give thanks to God for bread. Our voices rise in song together as our joyful prayer is said. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, hamotzi lechem min haaretz.
Shabbat Shalom, Chag Sameach. Hope that we see you on Monday as we celebrate the Torah. And I hope you have a great weekend.
Shabbat Shalom, everybody.
Shabbat Shalom.
Thank you.
Shabbat